Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving deep into something that, might sound super specific, dry cow management.
Right. Niche, maybe?
Maybe niche, but honestly, it's absolutely foundational to dairy farming success and maybe even more importantly, the well-being of the cows themselves.
Definitely.
We've gone through a whole load of detailed research, practical notes too, and kind of extracted the most important bits.
The highlights.
Yeah, the highlights to give you a real shortcut to understanding the critical pillars of this whole practice.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today is really to uncover why this, seemingly quiet, dry period for dairy cows is so vital.
It seems like nothing's happening, but...
Exactly. But it's vital for their future lactation potential and how really careful management during this time can prevent some pretty significant issues down the line.
We'll unpack the 4 key areas farmers focus on.
And, while our focus is totally on cows today, the principles behind it, meticulous planning, really understanding biological needs, adapting to challenges, they resonate way beyond the farm gate. That's a great point.
It makes you ask, how can such a specific, pretty short management period have such a big lasting impact on success and health? That's the puzzle we're going to try and solve for you.
Okay, let's crack into this then. Starting with what our sources consistently flag as the absolute bedrock, like the most important pillar, body condition score.
Yep.
BCS.
Yep, BCS.
It uses this simple 1 to 5 scale. 1 is, basically skin and bone, and 5 is over fat.
Right.
And keeping the right body condition, it isn't just about looks. It's profoundly crucial for the cow's health and her future production.
It really is. And what often catches people maybe off guard is when you need to be watching BCS most intensely.
Huh?
I mean, you should keep an eye on it throughout, sure, but there are 3 stages that are really, really critical.
For sure.
You want cows hitting a BCS of 3 when they're drying off. Then ideally somewhere between 3 and 3.25 when they calve. And then a minimum of 2.75 for breeding.
Right.
And the big goal, get 90% of your herd within those ranges at each stage.
90%. That sounds ambitious. Why so specific?
Well, because that level of precision, it directly translates into fewer problems at calving, fewer difficult births, and significantly higher conception rates later on. It's all about setting them up properly.
And here's where it gets really impactful, I found. The massive issues that come from both ends of the spectrum, cows being too fat or too thin at calving.
Exactly. Both are bad news.
So if a cow is overconditioned, high BCS, it messes with critical blood markers like non-esterified fatty acids, NEFA.
NEFA, yeah.
Yeah.
And BHB, beta-hydroxybutyrate.
Right. BHB. Think of these like warning lights. They tell you if the cow's burning too much body fat when she shouldn't be.
It's a sign of metabolic stress.
Yeah, big red flag. And it can lead straight to disorders like ketosis. There's research showing cows at that ideal BCS 3.25 post-calving had less NEFA compared to fatter cows, say BCS 4, meaning they were losing less weight.
Which is what you want.
Exactly. And the consequences keep coming. Fatter cows often take longer to get back in calf after calving.
Uh-huh.
They can even have lower peak milk yield. It's like they just sort of struggle to get going.
Precisely. And on the flip side, cows with low BCS, maybe under 2.5, they face their own set of serious problems.
Like what?
Well, they're much less likely to conceive, to go back and calve. Their milk yield suffers because they just don't have the body reserves.
Makes sense.
And they can become more prone to lameness, too, just because their physical condition is weaker. It really underscores why BCS isn't just about weight.
No.
It's a direct, visible indicator of her metabolic health and what she's likely to do next lactation. And it highlights why BCS needs watching throughout the entire lactation.
Not just at those specific points.
Right. If you spot issues between, say, 200 and 250 days in milk late lactation, that's a time to act. Don't wait until the dry period. It's about being proactive.
Okay, so body condition score sets that essential foundation. Got it. But even with perfect BCS, cows need the right environment, right?
Uh-huh.
That brings us to the practical stuff, the farm-level logistics.
Mm-hmm.
How do we physically manage this crucial period so cows don't slip backward? Our sources point out that actually getting a correct dry cow system in place can be pretty challenging.
Oh, it can be, especially with factors like seasonal calving or trying to get really compact calving systems going.
Explain that a bit.
Okay, so think about the ideal spring calving setup. You're aiming for 90% of the herd calving down in just 6 weeks.
Wow, tight window.
very tight. And ideally, cows are dried off around Christmas for a nice, neat 60-day dry period. That's the textbook.
But reality?
Reality is often different. The average 6-week calving rate is actually closer to 68%.
Oh, okay. Big difference.
Huge difference. So if you dry off the whole herd together based on the earliest calvers, some cows could easily end up being dry for like 100 days.
Right. Way longer than planned.
Exactly. And thinking back to our BCS chat, that extra time, it often leads to them getting overconditioned. And then you're right back to facing all those calving complications we talked about.
And it's not just timing, is it? It's the ripple effect. Making changes during the dry period can have these knock-on effects through the whole next lactation.
Absolutely.
Even something that seems simple, like moving groups of dry cows around, that can stress them out, mess with their dry matter intake.
It does. Social hierarchy changes, they get unsettled, they just don't eat as much, which is a problem when you're trying to manage their nutrition so precisely.
So the logistics need real care.
Meticulous planning, like moving dry cows to the calving box. Ideally, you do that no closer than 14 days before calving if you have the space.
Okay.
If you have to move them right at the last minute, then it needs to be as late as physically possible, like water bag showing or feet appearing. Minimum stress.
And what about space? You mentioned intake.
Crucial, often overlooked. Dry cows need 1 cubicle per cow. That's non-negotiable for rest.
1 per cow.
And 1 feed space each, which works out at around 2 feet, or say 60 centimeters per cow. So for 100 dry cows, you'd need about 61 meters of feed barrier access.
That's a lot of space.
It is. And you should aim for a stocking rate no higher than 90% in that 3-week period just before calving. These details directly impact her ability to eat, rest, and stay calm.
And water.
Oh, absolutely critical. Clean water, always available. Rough guideline, maybe 5 centimeters of trough length per cow. And those troughs, cleaned weekly, properly, to stop any fecal matter building up and putting them off drinking.
It's amazing the level of detail. What often catches people off guard, based on the sources, is the focus on feed management quality.
Yeah.
Like monitoring the silage pit face and the forage itself for molds.
Yes, this is so important. Molds aren't just unsightly, they can cause serious issues in dry cows.
Issues that might not even show up until after calving.
Exactly, things like abortions or metritis, that's a nasty uterine infection. The rule has to be crystal clear. No moldy silage. Ever.
And if you suspect it?
Use a mycotoxin binder. Don't risk it. It's a safeguard.
Okay. And practically, how do you ensure they eat well?
Well, if you don't have dedicated feed troughs, you need to be pushing feed in frequently, maybe 4 or 5 times a day, so it's always within reach.
Constant availability.
Yeah. And even with troughs, clean them weekly, stop feed building up, getting moldy, depressing their intake. And if you're using a TMR, a total mixed ration, that comes with its own challenges. Cows can be selective, they can sort through it, picking out the bits they like.
So they don't actually eat the balanced diet you intended.
Precisely. It might look like they're eating fine, but they're not getting the right mix. And if you mix feed for, say, 2 days at a time to save labor, it can start to heat up, especially in warmer weather. That reduces palatability, reduces intake. It's all about maintaining that consistent, clean, accessible, balanced diet.
That point about TMR sorting really shows how complex feed management is, even when you think you've got it right. But ultimately, what they eat during this dry period, that's fundamental to everything else, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Let's dive into the tailored nutrition side, because feeding the dry cow properly really sets the stage for her health and production in the next lactation.
It really does.
The dream outcome, the goal of all this effort, is a cow that calves easily, on her own, no metabolic dramas, hits her peak milk yield, holds it, and then gets back in calf quickly.
That's the target. That's success. And a great example of a system that helps achieve this, mentioned in our sources, is the Controlled Energy High Fiber Diet, CEHF.
CEHF.
It's a, relatively simple approach, really. It uses a single TMR right through the whole dry period.
One mix for the whole time.
Yeah. And the beauty is it consistently controls her energy intake, stops her getting too fat, while the high fiber keeps her rumen ticking over nicely, keeps it full.
So it smooths the transition.
Exactly. Minimizes the shock to her system around calving time, improves what we call peripartum health, her health right around birth, optimizes her dry matter intake, or DMI, and just boosts overall productivity.
Okay, so how do you actually put this into practice? Formulating the diet.
Right. You start by knowing your herd's BCS, like we discussed. Then you absolutely have to analyze your silage.
Test the forage.
Test the forage. Figure out its energy content. You're aiming for a specific maintenance energy level, say, around 100 megajoules, or about 8.6 of those standard feed units farmers use.
Okay.
Then you manage the dry matter intake carefully. Aim for around 11 kilos of dry matter per day. Maybe keep it under 12 for those big Holstein cows. And make sure there's enough protein in there, too. It's a real balancing act.
And here's a fascinating point that came up, especially relevant this year maybe, with a big silage harvest. Lots of apparently good quality stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The temptation is just to feed silage only.
Great.
It's there, it looks good.
It's a huge temptation. Easy, seems economical.
But the sources highlight why that's actually a bad idea.
It really is, because intake becomes completely uncontrolled. A dry cow can easily munch through 13, 14, maybe 15 kilos of dry matter from silage alone if you let her.
Way over the target DMI.
Way over. And if that silage is good quality, say 70% digestible, feeding that much for 60 days, she could be getting over 130 megajoules of energy a day.
Whoa, compared to the target of 100.
Exactly. Way too much energy. And that leads straight back to high BCS at calving and all the associated problems. It's a classic case of too much of a good thing.
Okay, so that's where something like straw comes in. It seems so basic.
It does seem basic, but it's like a hidden hero. It acts as a filler,
Right.
Controls her intake, basically bulks out the diet, and it cleverly dilutes the energy density of that high-quality silage, all while keeping her rumen functioning properly because of the fiber.
How much straw are we talking?
Depends on the forage quality, but typically somewhere between 2.5 and 5 kilograms per cow per day.
Okay.
And straw has another neat benefit. It helps dilute potassium levels. Some forages can be really high in potassium, which can cause issues like milk fever. Straw helps bring that down.
But you can't just chuck any old straw in, can you?
No, definitely not. The processing is key. You need to chop it to the right length, about 4 to 5 centimeters.
Why so specific?
Well, if you chop it too fine, make it too short, she might actually eat more than you want because it's easy to process. If you leave it too long, she might sort against it, reject parts of the ration, and again, not get the balanced intake you need. Precision matters.
Precision again. And what about protein?
Yeah, important too. You need to include a small amount of protein, soybean meal, maybe some slow-release urea.
But why is that needed in the dry period?
It supports healthy rumen function, helps keep dung consistency good, and interestingly, some studies show boosting protein intake can actually improve the quality of her colostrum.
Ah, that first milk for the calf. Vital.
Absolutely vital. Plus, including a bit of concentrate in the dry cow diet helps her rumen microbes, the bugs in her gut, adapt more easily to the much higher energy demands she'll face straight after calving. It primes the system.
And this whole CEHF approach, controlling energy using straw, does it actually work? Is there data?
Oh, yeah. There's compelling data. One survey mentioned looked at 277 farms, over 24,000 cows.
Okay.
And it found a massive 60% reduction in metabolic disorders, things like milk fever, retained placentas, displaced abomasums, when this type of controlled energy, high-fiber diet was implemented correctly.
60% reduction. That's huge.
It's huge. It shows the power of getting this nutritional strategy right during the dry period.
Okay, one final piece of the puzzle then. Minerals. You hear about them, but the sources suggest they're often overlooked.
Very often overlooked, or at least not managed with the same precision as energy or protein, both in terms of the quantity fed and, critically, the quality or form.
And I guess the mineral content in forage itself varies a lot.
Massively, from farm to farm, field to field, year to year. You just can't assume your silage or hay has what the cows need.
So what's the key takeaway there?
Mineral analysis of your forage. It's truly the only accurate way to know what you're starting with.
Test, don't guess.
Exactly. Only then can you make an informed choice about what supplement you actually need. Because mineral labels on bags, they can be really hard to decipher.
Yay.
Farmers might think they're providing enough, but they might not know exactly which minerals, or more importantly, what form those minerals are in.
What do you mean, what form?
This is crucial. You need to ask your supplier not just how much mineral they're getting per day, but specifically, is it inorganic or organic?
Okay, inorganic versus organic. Explain that difference.
Well, traditionally, many farms use inorganic mineral salts, things like sodium selenite, copper sulfate, cheap, common.
Right.
But here's the thing. Animals didn't really evolve to use minerals efficiently in that simple salt form. Think about nature. Plants take up inorganic minerals from the soil, and they convert them inside the plant into organic forms, complexed with amino acids or peptides. Then the animal eats the plant.
Ah, so the animal gets the plant-processed organic form.
Exactly. It's like the key that fits the biological lock much better.
So what for the cow's health? Why does organic matter?
Big difference. Inorganic minerals often can't be stored effectively by the animal. They use what they need immediately, and the rest is often just excreted.
So no building up reserves.
Very little. Which means they don't have those stores to draw on during times of stress, like calving, peak lactation, or if they get sick.
Okay, makes sense.
But feeding trace minerals, things like copper, zinc, selenium, manganese in their organic forms, that leads to much higher absorption, better storage in tissues like the liver, and more efficient utilization by the cow's body.
So it builds her internal resources.
Precisely. It strengthens her immune system, giving her much better protection against those metabolic diseases around calving. And overall, it leads to better cow performance, better udder health, better reproductive function. We're talking about key minerals like magnesium too, which is vital for preventing milk fever. Getting the form right matters.
Wow. Okay, so as we wrap this deep dive up, it's really clear how all these seemingly small details in dry cow management, from getting the body condition just right to the farm logistics, the precise nutrition, the fiber, the straw, and even the often missed world of mineral forms.
They're all interconnected.
Deeply interconnected, yeah. Each piece lays critical groundwork for that cow's health, her productivity, and ultimately the success of the whole dairy operation. It really is a complex dance of biology and meticulous planning.
It is. And this deep dive, I think, really shows how that kind of meticulous data-driven management during these specific, sometimes quite brief phases can lead to dramatically better outcomes across the board.
Yeah.
It highlights really significant gains you can make in both farming efficiency and, importantly, animal well-being. Just shows how powerful understanding those foundational biological needs can be.
And maybe a final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah.
As you go about your day, perhaps consider how much deeper the impact of seemingly simple underlying biological processes might be in any system you interact with.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, whether it's a business process, a personal health habit, even how you organize your own time or projects. What unexpected benefits could pop up just from truly understanding and managing their foundational elements? Something to think about.